Welcome back and thank you for joining me again. In this week's episode I'm going to talk to you about how I upgraded my tank. A few things I needed to consider whilst upgrading my tank, and hopefully along the way I'll be giving some useful bits of advice, tips, hints for what you need to do if and when you upgrade your tank, or if you're purchasing a tank to get started in the hobby. So why did I upgrade in the first place? The long and short of it is, I started to lose faith in the quality of the seals within my previous tank. They say that we should think about resealing a tank approximately every 10 years. My tank was built in 2004, so it is 13 years old. However, I don't know how many years it's been operational because I bought it second hand. So it must be coming up to around about the 10-year mark, but that on its own would not be enough for me to lose faith in it. It seemed as though there was starting to be some air pockets or water pockets, or essentially some little gaps appearing between the seal and the aquarium itself. This wasn't yet a major issue, but it was starting to cause me some concern. And on the corners of the outside of the aquarium, we started to see some watermarks, white watermarks, where water had been coming out over the top of the seal, or down the back of the seal, or in relation to the trim as well, and running down the outside. This wasn't a leak as such, as I say, it might have been splashing, it might have been condensation, but there was some sign there that something was releasing some water. Previously, I had a dual vision 450, and they're incredibly strong tanks. They're really well built, they're really good looking, and I enjoyed having it. I got lots of experience out of it, I got lots of pleasure out of it, but it was coming to the time where I wanted to upgrade. I needed to upgrade. Also, I put it through a lot of wear and tear. As I say, I bought it second hand, if not third hand, and I'd moved it properties a couple of times. So every time I drained it, moved property, refilled it, it was putting strain on the tank itself and on those seals. So, you know, they did well, but it was time to upgrade. When upgrading, essentially I've got three options: buy brand new, build it myself, or buy second hand. Each one of them have their own strengths, qualities and disadvantages. So I was looking second hand. Now, I was very lucky in the fact that I had a bit of extra space, so I could extend my tank a little bit. So I was looking for a tank online, second hand, that was slightly bigger than I already had, to make that upgrade a bit more worthwhile. Buying second hand, there's a lot of really good deals out there, a load of bargains to be had depending on what you're looking for. Particularly if you're going for the tanks of a more reasonable size and more accommodating in the family home. Look on Facebook, look on Gumtree, look on Preloved. There's really lots of people who are selling their tanks for various reasons and have good quality tanks for bargain prices. When buying second hand though, I do have to say, consider a few things. Firstly, if you can see it operational, then do so. That is really going to benefit you. Go and see the tank when it is full of fish, full of water, full of the lights being on and working as you'd expect to see it in your own home. If that can't happen, at least go and see it and ask the current owner to turn the lights on. Look at it from different angles, look at it from different aspects, and try and get an idea of the quality of the glass or the material that it is made out of in terms of scratches. If you're buying second hand, inevitably there will be scratches. You need to be aware of what scratches are there, what you can live with, what you cannot live with, where they might be, whether they'll be inside or out of sight, depending on how you're going to have your tank. When a tank has water in it and lights on, some of those scratches are near on invisible. That's why you need to try and see it when it's operational. Otherwise, as I say, I have a good idea of what to expect when it is operational and worst case scenario. Luckily for me, I knew of a place up in Stockport called Abyss Aquatics that bought in custom built tanks and sold them as package deals. And I'd often been there and looked at their tanks and thought what fantastic tanks they've got, and maybe one day I could get one of these. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I knew I was going to this store to have a look around at what stock they had in terms of fish and what have you. Whilst I was there, I checked out the tanks, and there was one perfect for what I was after. It was the size I was after, it was the colour I was after, it was the shape I was after. It was just perfect. Not only that, but it was part of a package deal and an ex-display model, so obviously I wasn't paying full whack for it. And that's key. Shop around. You will get good deals. You will get one that suits you for the price you're willing to pay. That being said, it was a little bit more than I was expecting or wanting to pay. However, when I thought about the tank, the seals that I was currently running, I thought, if they fail on me, if those seals were to start leaking quite drastically, then the costs of that will go through the roof. Inevitably, I'd need to buy a new tank anyway, but the costs of that water going all over the carpet, into the walls, into the sofas, the costs are just going to rocket. Not only that, but if that happens when I'm at work or in bed, asleep, then I could come home or wake up in the morning to all my fish being dead in an empty tank and soaking wet floor. It just wasn't worth thinking about. So with that in mind, I could then justify the little extra cost that I was going to have to pay for a tank that fitted my needs, fitted my wants, so to speak, and I got a beautiful tank that I'm really happy with. The next thing I had to consider when buying this tank was, how was I going to do the upgrade itself? I've got a tank that is running with fish in it, but it's in the place where I want my new tank to go. As many of you are aware, when setting up a new tank, you need to cycle the tank itself. Or should I say, cycle the filtration within the tank. Just to give you a brief rundown of how it works. Basically, there's the nitrogen cycle. Fish give off waste. This waste produces ammonia. You need good bacteria, friendly bacteria within the fish tank and within the filter to break down this ammonia, but it releases it into nitrites. Then you need a different type of friendly bacteria to be able to break down the nitrites. Nitrites are broken down and this releases nitrates. Nitrates can only really be effectively removed by doing water changes, which is why when we have an aquarium set up, we need to do weekly or bi-weekly water changes to keep that water quality where it needs to be for healthy, active fish. Nitrites and ammonia is very toxic to fish, so any levels of it in the aquarium could cause issues for your fish and could cause health issues and eventually resulting in death. So you need to ensure that there is enough of the friendly bacteria within the tank and within the filtration system to be able to break down the ammonia and the nitrites. If there isn't enough there, or if there isn't any there at all, you're going to get spikes of these toxic chemicals and the worst will happen. Essentially, filtration is all about surface area. The more surface area you've got, the better filtration system you could have. Now, you can use filter pads or filter media, but also those bacteria, those friendly bacteria, are in the water, they are on any decor you've got within your tank, they're on the tank walls, they're on your plants, etc, etc. So the larger surface area you've got, the more capacity you've got for this friendly bacteria. So just by bringing home a new tank, filling it up with water, putting the same fish that I've already got in there isn't going to be enough. I will have all sorts of issues over the next few weeks. However, I did need to upgrade my filtration system because my old filtration system on its own would not be enough for this increased size in the tank. So, to combat that, I ensured that I rescued as much water as possible into barrels. I would also be using the filter pads and the media in the filter to reintroduce this friendly bacteria from my old filter to my new filter. And to do that, I was essentially washing out the filter pads and the filter media into a box full of tank water. Then I got the new media, the new pads, and put this in the same tub. The pads would pick up some of that friendly bacteria that would be in the same system as what was originally being run, but also I would use some of the original filter media in my new filter system. Otherwise, I would have had to have an empty tank for 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe even up to 6 weeks, whilst that media became saturated in friendly bacteria, and then slowly introduce my fish to continue that build-up. I didn't have anywhere to house the fish, I needed them in that tank the same day. So in this next part of the video, it was time to remove the fish from the tank. As you can see, I've got numerous poly boxes and drained the water from the fish tank into these poly boxes. Me and Matt caught the fish, put them into the poly boxes and separated them out evenly enough. Due to the time this whole procedure went on, from catching the fish into the poly boxes to putting the fish back into the fish tank, and the limited number of poly boxes I had, it did mean that I had to do a couple of brief water changes in the poly boxes whilst the fish were in there, just to maintain that water quality. We caught all the fish, we drained the remainder of the tank, and eventually we lifted it out and into the garage out of the way. Eventually we had the tank in place and was ready to start refilling it, at last. So we got the tank, in went the sand, in went the decor, in went the water. We used the old water that we'd been storing in the barrels from before, we poured that in, and we added new water as well to make sure it was all topped up and to the right temperature. I got the fish from the poly boxes and I placed them in one at a time. They were a little bit stressed initially, they were generally at the bottom of the tank, but within a matter of minutes they were acting normal again and they were perfectly healthy, swimming around as can be expected, just as if you bought one home from the fish shop. Was it worth it? Definitely. Definitely worth it. Am I pleased with it? Yes, I am. At this moment in time, I do need to have a think about the lights. They are giving off a white blue as opposed to a pure white, diamond white, which makes the water have a bit of a hint to it as far as I'm concerned. It's looking a little bit purple, a little bit red at times. It's not the look I'm going for. I prefer a clear, natural looking tank with natural looking lighting. So that is something that I'm currently thinking about and rectifying and talking with the shop that I got it from. But they're happy to see my point of view and they're happy to work with me to get that rectified. So all is going well. The fish seem really happy, they seem really healthy. The current lights on it make them have really vibrant colours, makes the natural colours come out a little bit more, but just in general it's not the colour that I want. It's tinting the decor, it's tinting the sand, the substrate, and it's not what I'm looking for. That's the only gripe. But in terms of the tank and the effort it was, yes, I've got the bruises, the scratches, the scars for the lifting and the carrying. It is heavy work. There was 2 of us. It was an incredibly long day when you think about, you know, I live 2.5 hours away pretty much from the shop itself, but I'm pleased with this tank. Well worth the upgrade. In terms of the seals, my mind is at rest. I can enjoy it without that worry. The fish are happier, they've got more space, they've got a more natural environment. It's going well. It's going well. I hope you liked this video and potentially found it useful. Please like, share, subscribe, and if you've got any comments, please leave them in the section below. I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to doing the next video. And if this video wasn't quite your cup of tea, then hopefully something in the future will be. There will be a variety of topics discussed, a variety of things on this channel. Please tune in next time, and I'll speak to you soon.